probably all deputies on this committee would be aware that there's quite a volume of complaints, specifically I would say about some of the private operators. In my own case, it's the issue of go-ahead. And I'm aware of relentless and continuous complaints about bus services, between cancellations, late arrivals, disappearing buses from schedules. It really is unacceptable, and people cannot rely on the services, specifically in relation to the Route 63, 17 and 175. And this is not isolated, this is practically daily. And the response from the NTA has been quite poor, if I'm honest. I actually think that the response has to be more robust because, as you said to previous deputies about the PSO, there is an agreement there in place. The contractors are meant to be adhering to what they say, and that isn't being done. What else can we see then from the NTA in terms of improvements in relation to those services?
I might ask Tim to respond to that. Thanks, Tim.
Yes, Deputy. There's no doubt that the last few months have been very difficult for all public transport, including Go Ahead, Dublin Bus, Bus Éireann, Irish Rail, Lewis, and particularly from the October-November timeline and over the Christmas period, we had what could only be described as exponential growth in staff absences. The biggest challenge for operators is that people were not in a position, staff were not in a position to give forward notice that they were pinged as a close contact, or in fact that they had a positive test result themselves.
Just to cut across you there, sorry, this is not isolated to COVID. This is pre-COVID, and this is continuing actually since the introduction on, particularly, I'm familiar with the 63 myself. And if maybe we'll take it offline, but I can send you a slew of complaints I've received specifically on the 63. And the reason why I'm raising it here today is because my correspondence with the NTA and that of constituents has effectively been, I've received the same response constantly, and it's just not acceptable.
As regarding the performance, I was talking earlier about the contract and the obligations with the providers in the contract. Go Ahead, after an initial bedding in period, became in Dublin our best operator in terms of both reliability and punctuality. So the tracking that we were doing showed that they were achieving
But they have a lot less routes, don't they?
Sorry?
They have a lot less routes.
In percentage terms.
Yeah.
So they were providing a very reliable service and a very punctual service. Other operators have improved over that contract period, and then the biggest issues have definitely been related to COVID. I can guarantee you that is the case. But prior to that, we had a really good performance, and we were seeing it right across the board. The punctuality, reliability was improving. Okay, but the biggest single factor, Deputy, and again, I might just put that out there, is congestion, and the uncertainty of congestion, even at the present time. Very difficult for operators and us to predict what are the congestion levels going to be going forward, and therefore what are the running times, and how does a bus and a bus operator know.
Sorry,
what time the bus
I've limited time. I've limited time on this, but just to say to you, this is not traffic because the bus never appears. The bus isn't in traffic. The bus never runs. The 715 in particular on the 63 doesn't appear. I've corresponded with your office. The response is not good. The response to constituents is even worse. They don't get responses at times. I'm just asking you now to have a look at the 63 with Go Ahead. It is not acceptable. It's not working. People can't get to work. Now, the second thing I would ask you is in relation to the supply and the service for students going to school. So we have 3 routes locally, the 111, the 59 and the 75 and the 75A at times. If we could look at maybe amalgamating those to ensure, or synchronising those to service the students who are going to the educational facilities that ultimately those routes serve. Be it coming or going home from school. Again, we've corresponded with the NTA. It's our only opportunity really to engage on this. So I'd ask you to look at the timetable again, specifically in the afternoon for the 111 and the 59, because there's 2 or 3 secondary and primary schools that actually could avail of that service if it were a few minutes later. And I'd just ask you to do that. Just in terms of the overall complaints, though, your report didn't cover it, but you might, and you touched on it, Ms Graham, early on, you might send a note, please, to the committee on the volume of complaints broken down by type of service, be it bus or rail or whatever, because I think that'll be of interest, certainly interest to myself, and I think it's something we need to be aware of. Also, in terms of, or do you have any information on that right now?
I have it to hand, I think, but it might be better just to respond to you.
Like, can you give a flavour of how many? Like, what kind of numbers are we talking?
I just have the performance report for 2020. If I'm just going to access that.
Sure.
Just give me time. Okay, so in terms of Dublin Bus Direct Award contract, the complaint rate 2019 to 2020, the complaint rate per 100,000. So in quarter one 2020, I think it was 9.8, went up to 14.8 in quarter two, down to...
Do you have actual figures though? Do you have numbers? Is it like...
That's the complaint rate per 100,000 passengers.
Yeah.
So that's what we would track in terms of a contract. Is the complaint rate per 100,000. And I can tell you that in the equivalent time period for go-ahead in their outer Dublin Metropolitan was between 9, 9.3, 9.4, 10.5. So
That seems...
Then in the Dublin commuter, it was higher in quarter two, was 38 in the Dublin commuter, outer Metropolitan. 38.1 down to 17.8 in quarter two, and then up to 28.6 in quarter four.
If you could furnish it, please, to the committee, and maybe with actual numbers, because while I appreciate they're calculated per 100,000, it would be good to get the raw numbers.